As the old song goes, Mama said there'll be days like this, and boy, was it one of those type of days for Villanova. The Wildcats faced one of the best teams in the country on the road and got a 2-hour blueprint from Michigan of just how much growing they have to do. We break down what went wrong, what Nova can learn from, and what it means. Most importantly, what needs to change to avoid similar results in the future. It's all next on Holding Over. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Holy Nova. We're part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janus, alongside my co-host David White. We want to make sure that we thank you for being with us. Not the happiest of shows after this dismantling that we all watched up in Ann Arbor, 89-61. Villanova falls to Michigan. And the craziest part about that, David, the game was not as close as the final score would indicate, unfortunately.
Not at all. There are sometimes where you see like a 20-point loss, and it's just kind of like the score just keeps ticking up and up and up and up slowly over the game. This seemed to be within the first 5 minutes, it was 15, and then by halftime, it was almost 30, and it just kind of stayed there for the rest of the game.
Very important to note, and we don't want to sugarcoat this. There was a lot of bad. We're going to talk about it. As a matter of fact,
Mhm.
here's my notes from the game. This is the side of bad. This is the side of good. That's kind of what we're working at here. But it's Michigan. They have done this to a lot of teams, some really good teams. I think Gonzaga's a Sweet 16 team. They beat them worse than they beat Villanova. San Diego
Mhm.
State, same exact thing. Auburn, same exact thing. So it's not time to say the season's over or this is a disaster or what's Kevin Willard doing quite yet. But there are some questions that need to be asked. There are some topics that need to be addressed. And that's what we're going to do on the show. Kind of talk about what went wrong, what needs to change, and what lessons they can draw from this. It started right off the bat, as you mentioned. I mean, it was a 19-7 run in the first 6 minutes of the game. And it kind of had the feel of men against boys right from the jump. Too big inside and too quick on the perimeter. I don't know about you, David. That's a pretty disastrous
Nah,
combination that Villanova was dealing with.
it's not a great combination when you talk about the two. But I mean, yeah, you're playing Michigan, who is a legitimate national championship contender. They might be the best team in the country right now. I think
I think
Ken
we get
Palm
rid of
has them.
might if we're going to say right
Uh,
now. I think
uh,
they are the best team in the country at the moment.
Because Ken Palm has them one, the net has them one. They're two in the AP poll. So, yeah, I'd say they're the best team in the country. But you add that to the fact that I've said it a few times on this show that tends to get out to these slow starts. I'm not saying that you play with Michigan, but when you get out to a slow start against a team that's clearly better than you, that's what that balloons into real fast.
Yeah, you got to answer the bell from the jump. You also have some things that have been recurring problems that crept up that I'm not sure they are going to be able to solve in this iteration of the team. It's going to be a workaround rather
Mhm.
than work through situation. Top of the list is the defense, David. I mean, we've talked about it. They now have a combo problem. No matter who they play, they seem to have a great night from the perimeter, which is not
Yeah.
something that you're counting on, especially from a Michigan team that, yes, they can make threes. We've seen them do it to teams this year, but it's not necessarily a strength of the team. Now they ended up 27% from three, but they shot a much higher percentage of that than that in the first half. And they ended 3 of 15 in the second half. So they were 6 of 18 in the first half. And remember, they missed their final 4 3-point shots. So in the very short competitive phase of the game, they were right around 50%. And so many of them were wide open looks because Villanova can't stay in front of people. So they're getting caught chasing the ball and over rotating and scrambling. And against a team with that type of size and that type of shooting prowess, you just got no shot whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it so many times that the defense straight line drives kill them because then it puts you into rotation against a team like Michigan. They're also going to move. There are other teams where you get put into rotation, but nobody else on the perimeter moves, and it makes rotation a little easier. Michigan's going to move to the spot where, hey, I know that I'm in line with the ball handler. I know I'm available for a kick out. And I know that this is a really long run for anybody trying to recover. So that's one problem. The ball screen defense, I know we're going to talk about that, but the ball screen defense has been pretty bad all season, and tonight was no different. I don't know what Kevin Willard is trying to accomplish on that ball screen. Sometimes it seems like, I guess all the time it seems like nothing works. Whether it's a hedge, whether it is a scramble under, whether it's a get over top, one of those three has to work on a ball screen, and thus far in the season, I haven't seen any one of them work.
Well, and that was the perfect example, I thought, tonight. I mean, they at one point just left the ball handler off a ball screen. Two guys went after the roller. That isn't going to work. Leads to a wide open three that Michigan knocks down. They went under ball screens repeatedly. Michigan made them pay. How many mid-range jump shots did Michigan make off of ball screens? They didn't make a ton of threes off of them, but they made 16, 17 footers all night long, especially in that first half. And then the most egregious was you try to fight through, you allow them to turn the corner, then you have two step up on the ball handler, and you have a huge guy who you already don't have much rim protection as it is, but now you've got your defense stepping in against a basket diver who's bigger than anybody that you have to try to help. It's no contest. We saw it at the end of the BYU game. We saw it the entire first half tonight in this game. And I don't necessarily know what the answer is. I mean, we're not as smart as Kevin Willard. There's no doubt about it. I think if there was an easy answer, Kevin Willard would have already diagnosed it and gone to that. But they've got to pick something and maybe stick to that. Because right now, I understand, and I was the one that said this in the show yesterday, that they're going to have to mix defenses and try to confuse Michigan. They look like they're confusing themselves more than top flight opponents right now. You get away with confusing Temple and Penn and Sacred Heart and teams like that. You cannot confuse Michigan and BYU, at least in the two games we've seen against that type of competition. It's not worked at all.
Well, and confusing teams on defense is not changing how you handle ball screens.
That's true too.
That is based off a player. Shooters, you got to fight over the top and you got to make them drive. Drivers, you generally go under. If it's somebody who's got a full head of steam, maybe you hedge real fast and let your primary defender get back. So that doesn't change. It's what you do, whether you're in man or zone, whether you throw a box and one at them or something like that. I don't know what they want to do on that ball screen, because I think with each perimeter player that Michigan had, they did something different on a ball screen with every one of them.
And that's what I was kind of alluding to in terms of trying to confuse the offense. I think they got a little too deep. You know, every team has a scouting report. This is what you're doing on these particular players in these situations. They might have had too much variance on the ball screen. It was kind of my point, in an attempt to try to keep them off balance so they didn't get into any type of rhythm. Not to confuse them, probably use the wrong word, but just to keep them maybe a little bit more honest and keep them from kind of just being able to run the same couple of sets over and over again. Unfortunately, it went the other way, and they were able to just kind of run the same combinations over and over again. And whatever variance the Villanova defense gave them, they took advantage of. Some of that, there's no answer with the size Michigan has. They have a 7'2" guy. They have two 6'11" guys who can all move. That's pretty tough for any team to deal with, as we have seen so far this year. It is almost impossible for Villanova to deal with. They don't have the combination of athleticism and length on their front court to be able to handle that.
Well, and I was going to say, the defense is the biggest concern for this team, and I know this team is what it is. They're going to have to fight through that. They're going to have to get better. But, I mean, the biggest problem right now is just you saw a huge talent discrepancy between these two teams. And I mean, that's going to be on Kevin Willard hitting the portal, hitting recruiting to bring in more talent, because there was just I'm not sure that there was anybody on Nova's team that I think that Dusty May would take. Maybe Devin Askew. I mean, maybe
He
Caden
recruited. Yeah, I
Lewis.
was gonna say he
Yeah,
recruited a Caden Lewis hard. I don't think there's anybody
yeah.
on Villanova's team that would crack Michigan's top 6 right now. I think that's a fair
No,
way to put it. Like
yeah,
their rotation would be hard. Caden Lewis would be playing 15 minutes a night if he was at Michigan.
yeah,
They'd be trying to bring him. He'd basically be in Chris Jeffrey's role at Villanova if he was on that Michigan team. Instead, he's being asked to shoulder a lot of the scoring load and run the offense for this Villanova team. And he's doing it really well against lesser opponents. He's kind of learning some lessons here as he gets against top-notch opponents. Problem is, he's not getting that consistency of seeing those top-notch opponents with the way the non-conference schedule has worked out so far. And so the game
yeah.
against BYU and the first half tonight against Michigan, they unfolded in eerily similar fashion. We'll get to that
Mm-hmm.
more a little bit as well. Let's talk about the offense, though, holistically. It's been a strength for the Wildcats this year, right? I mean, the ball
Yeah,
movement especially has been pretty impressive. What happened? 6 assists the entire night.
yeah,
3 of those came in garbage time, David. They looked like Temple looked the other night in
yeah.
that game against Villanova. That's not what you want to be if you're the Wildcats, especially when we're talking about what's been a strength of this team so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, there was no ball movement. It seemed
None.
like it was one pass, if that, dribble, 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 take a shot. I think part of that was it seemed like Devin Askew was the only guy who wasn't afraid of the moment. Times it seemed like everybody else was scared of the moment, which, I mean, you're going into Michigan, but you can't be afraid to play the game. Their fans aren't coming onto the floor to play against you. But yeah, just stagnant offense is probably the kindest way I can put it.
And you look at this team, and you mentioned Devin Askew, and he was kind of the bright spot, especially early. That was, I haven't had a lot of problems with anything we've seen from Kevin Willard this year. I still, big picture, am fine with Kevin Willard. I did not think he had a great night tonight. Don't think it
Mhm.
mattered. Think we could have had John Wooden 2.0. We could have had Jay
Yeah,
Wright on the sideline. This team, this matchup, it wasn't happening. But maybe could have been not as ugly right away, if not for the fact this confused me. It confused me a lot, as a matter of fact. They get down 24-12. They knock down back-to-back threes. The second one, or excuse me, they get down 24-10. They knock down back-to-back threes. The second one comes on an and one. So it's a 4-point play for Devin
hmm,
Askew. They get back to within 24-17. He then takes Askew out after the made free throw. Again, you said, I wouldn't use the word scared, but there was certainly a timidness to
yeah,
everyone else in that lineup for Villanova. Askew showed no timidness whatsoever, no shyness, no hesitation. He was out there trying to play and see what he could do. So he takes him out. Next thing you know, it's an 11-0 Michigan run. And not only is it an 11-0 Michigan run, there's a timeout in the midst of that 11-0 Michigan run
hmm,
called by Villanova, and he still didn't have Devin Askew back in the game. He puts Askew at the scores table at 31-16 after they turn the ball over out of the timeout and Michigan gets a bucket, but the lead balloons to 35-16 before they could get Askew back out there. And it's curtains at that point, absolute curtains. It was curtains for the
yeah,
opening tip. But I mean, the competitive phase of the game had ended, and that was the one guy that was trying to compete out there at the moment. It just seemed like a very odd move from Kevin Willard. And I mean, again, it's not the difference in the game. It's just something to keep in mind down the line. And it's, we talk about this team's got to make some adjustments and learn from it. Kevin Willard's a lot smarter than me, but it feels like that's something that he's going to have to go back with his staff and kind of figure out. I know they want to watch Askew's minutes because he's still coming back from the injury and they don't want to re-injure him, but he's your
hmm,
team at that particular moment. Like, take him out later in the half. Don't you kind of provided your own heat check for the guy, it seemed like.
yeah. I agree. I think you got to play him in that situation. See what happens in a 7-point game. If it starts to creep up again, that's when you take him out, give him a break. But yeah, I think there are plenty of question marks in this game. like you said, I don't think it's the difference in the game. Michigan is really, really, really good. But just, and when I say scared, I mean over half the shot attempts were threes. To me, part of that is you're down and you're just trying to hit a shot to get you back in. But part of it is also you don't want to get hit. You don't want to play the physical game that happens inside the 3-point line. So that's what I'm saying. You got to take some of the fight to Michigan every once in a while.
Yeah, and I think also part of it too was you knew they were bigger, and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of conceded we're not going to be able to do anything. Can't concede
Yeah.
that early. You got to find a way to fight through it, even if it's just getting touches inside and then kicking it out. You can't shoot contested threes off the bounce. You're going to be hard pressed to get offensive rebounds as it is. You have no
Yeah,
chance
exactly.
to get offensive rebounds when you're shooting threes off the bounce without any ball movement, any rotation from the defense whatsoever when you're giving up that kind of size. Remember, Villanova got a ton of offensive rebounds against BYU. The only reason they were still in the game were those second chance opportunities, and BYU not as big as Michigan, but much more similar to Michigan than any opponent that Villanova's faced all this season. It just felt like you needed that type of game plan, that type of attack. And for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was the game plan. You could see there was visible frustration from Kevin Willard. And maybe as they got punched in the mouth right away, it changed what they were trying to do out there on the floor. And that's why he did burn the 2 timeouts in the first 9 minutes of the game to try to get things righted. But there was no righting it whatsoever.
No, the die was cast real early.
Let's talk
But
about let's talk
yeah,
about Caden Lewis. You mentioned him earlier, right, David? I mean, this is again, we've his ceiling is really high, and his upside is really high. We were getting though talk about potential one and done coming into the year, and he's a freshman. Who knows what we
yeah,
see in terms of his development in 2 months? He's not a one and done guy though. Right now, he's nowhere near it. You can see as he gets into these upper level opponents, he can't play that bully ball that we see him take
yeah.
over games with against the lower tier competition, and he's got to learn that second gear. We see it in bursts. I mean, there was that one play. I mean, missed the dunk, but he splits a double team and outruns the
Mm-hmm.
entire Michigan defense down the floor. You're like, wow, that's next level athleticism. We just didn't see enough of it. It kind of just comes and goes, and you wonder if the game's just really sped up for him right now against these type of opponents because he's not getting many looks at this type of competition.
I think so. That's what I was going to say. Is it just looks like the game is a little too fast for him right now. He needs to slow it down a little bit. You kind of wonder because going into the season, we were saying Devin Askew is going to be huge for Caden Lewis's development. Um, as you said, right now, nowhere close to a one and done. But you wonder as Askew is getting healthier, playing more minutes, playing in games like this where he's showing that, yeah, I'll take the shots. I'll at least go at Michigan. You wonder if that kind of leadership, that kind of do as I do mentality will rub off on Caden Lewis. Uh, who knows? More practice time, more just reps. I
More
think are
game
going to be,
reps
yeah.
against these, and you're going to get them a little bit here. You got Wisconsin coming
Mm-hmm.
up, and then you get into Big East play. I know the Big East hasn't been as good as we were hoping that it would be coming into the year, but you've
Yeah.
got some high level teams that you're going to face. I still think St. John's is better than we're giving them all credit for. Remember, St. John's, I know it's only an exhibition. I know it was very early in Michigan's evolution as a team. But I mean, they put 95 up on that Michigan team. I'm still trying
Yeah.
to figure out how they possibly did that after watching what Michigan has done to opponents these last 3-4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I just hope that this game doesn't put them too down. Like we said, Michigan's one of the best team in the country as we sit here today. You're going to have a shot. Wisconsin is not as good as Michigan. They're a good team. They're a high-level team. So they're going to be good. I think you have a shot to knock them off. I think you have a shot to compete with them. I just hope that this kind of game doesn't psych anybody out about, oh, man, we're going in to play Wisconsin. We remember what happened to Michigan, and now you got the yips a little bit.
Well, and the good news is, again, very different type of game, but it was a loss. It was their only other loss, and it was a game that they played a clearly superior opponent. I mean, they almost stole that game from BYU, but it was quite
Yeah,
clear watching that game that BYU was the better team. We said that at the time, and it was a credit to Villanova that they put themselves in position to thief the game. It
yeah,
wasn't a credit, obviously, that they didn't execute down the stretch and find a way to get it, but they gave themselves a chance in that game. But they still played a better team. They realized BYU was a better team, bounced back right away from it. I thought that was a good sign. Now they got to do that. You can't lose this game to Pitt upcoming over the course of the
no,
weekend. I mean, Pitt has struggled this year, so you got to get your mind right away and be ready to go in that game. You can't let one loss become another. And Pitt was always going to be a little bit of a trap game as it is if they were going to struggle this year the way they have in between this opportunity against a potential number one team in the country in Michigan, and then a game, quite frankly, against Wisconsin that you might have to get, which we will talk about
mhm,
more before this show is done. Want to talk, though, more about this game. Before we do, we want to ask you, please like the video, subscribe to the Big East Energy Network if you aren't already. Hitting that like button is a big deal for us. It helps us battle through the algorithm, get us in front of more Villanova fans. Our numbers are back on the rise again. We had almost 500 views in a single day. The Michigan preview. I'm interested to see how many views we get in this post-mortem that we are doing here about this Michigan game today. Not quite as much fun, the optimism of what could be versus the stark reality of what ended up happening. But please like the video. It very much helps us. Please leave a comment about what you think this team needs to do to fix itself here moving forward, and what you would like to see happen the rest of non-conference play. We'll run out of time as the start of Big East play is quickly approaching. But as we get back to this Villanova team, I thought another thing that we needed to talk about before we shift to the few positives that there were from this game was the depth. It is a bit of an
yeah,
issue right now, and it's kind of funny because coming into the year when we talked about it, uh, all the discussion about could they go 10, 11 deep, and we wondered, boy, does that mean that this team has a lot of depth and really good players up and down the roster? Or does that mean they are still searching for answers and aren't quite sure who they can count on when the season begins? Right now, the answer, I'm still not sure what the answer is, to be
yeah,
blatantly honest.
me
The
neither.
injuries have thrown everything off. So we're not sure what a Zion Stanford is, what a Tafara Gapare ends up looking like when he gets all the way back healthy, what we might end up seeing from a Devin Askew before the season is over. He shows it in bursts, but hasn't been the most consistent guy in the world. But right now, what we're seeing from two guys in particular that they were counting on coming into the year, Tafara Gapare, he's really their only rim protection, David. He's the only
Hmm.
guy with length and athleticism, and you see it in small bursts. The two blocks in the second half tonight against Michigan's starting front line, arguably the best front line in the country, were impressive. The
Yeah,
problem is it was mixed amongst a bunch of plays where he looks somewhere between disinterested and lost, and I'm not sure which one it is, but when you watch Kevin Willard and his interactions with Gabare, there's visible frustration there, and it's
hmm,
because this is not a new system for Gabare. He was with Willard at Maryland last year. He should be further along, and they need him to be able to provide good defensive minutes because he is what they have. That's his role on this team, at least it feels like to me.
yeah. Gapare seems to me most of the time to just be like moving too fast for the game. It's like he's just I don't know. It's like here, 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 and it's just like no, just play good defense. You don't have to make the all American play every time you're on the floor. Every once in a while, yeah, let's make it. But like he's to me, it seems like he's always trying to make that Sports Center top 10 play and not just the simple play.
And also, there's a lot of miscommunication there that's happening, and he's involved in a lot of it. When you
Hmm.
get these ball screens, we're not in the walkthroughs. We don't know what exactly they're trying to do. I mean, even the announcers don't know what exactly they're trying to do. But I do notice that when one guy is involved in too many of the miscommunications, that's not a good sign that he probably is at least off balance or off at a step somewhere along the way. And again, the I've been to 3 games this year and have watched
Yeah.
Kevin Willard, especially coaching defensively, very intently. And the one person you see him coach on defense and be visibly frustrated is Gapare, because I keep coming back to the fact that him and Malachi have been in the system before, and they
Yeah.
need to be further along, and they're not right now. And that's hurting this team, especially with Gapare, because they don't have another person like that. Duke Brennan, as you said, absolute warrior. This is not his matchup, though. Undersized,
No.
big, and Michigan's size overwhelmed them tonight. You needed Gapare to be that secondary presence that could have taken some of the pressure off of Brennan, allowed him to float a little bit more, and that just wasn't there. It was there in 2 bursts, but he has the ability to get it there more often.
And I wonder how much Gapare, when you play high school basketball, your athleticism can make up for a lot. I wonder sometimes, because he is very athletic. He is the best rim protector they have based off of that athleticism. So I wonder sometimes on those miscommunications if he's just taking some time off, disinterested, thinking that his athleticism is going to be able to fix the play at the end. And that's how you get yourself in trouble in college basketball, especially against teams like Michigan.
Yep, I think that's really well said, and that's something. I mean, they're gonna have to. They need him. It's one of those things where you can see at times Kevin Willard kind of going away from him, and then quickly realizes he has to be out there. And I know he's had the toe injury that he's been dealing with, which is not fun and does not make life easier and does not allow you to work on things and work your way through things. But whatever he's got to do to get through it, he's got to figure that out, because he is going to be a necessary piece, it feels like, for this team this year. Another necessary piece that feels like he's still a long way away is Zion Stanford. I mean, I know that's a guy that Kevin Willard was really high on coming into the year, seemed to be really high on with what he had brought to Villanova in the early portions of camp. And then he suffers that injury, gets shut down for 4 weeks, and he just looks like a shell of himself out there. This is a guy that's known for his athleticism, his slashing ability, his leap ability. We didn't see any of that out there tonight against Michigan. This, I thought, was the type of game where he was going to be a big factor and play a bunch of minutes. And he just, I mean, a step slow and just a little lost, and all of the above, all the things we talked about Gapare, but even worse because Stanford's, he's naturally behind. It makes sense why it is, but it's a big problem for Villanova. They got to find a way to expedite his advancement and getting back up to speed.
Well, he is so far behind. It seems like he is further behind than I think you or I would have expected, even coming off the injury. I mean, clearly, I guess the staff doesn't think he only played 3 minutes. So
because when he was out there, I mean, Michigan was just right. He couldn't get down the floor with him. I don't know if he's still hurt, if they brought him back too soon, but didn't it feel like he kind of couldn't keep up, which was tough to see.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly not all the way back. I don't know what that is. Obviously, we're not in practice. We're not in the training room. I don't know what it is, if it's a mental thing, if it's still the injury nagging, but he's clearly off somewhere. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, he is what a lot of people considered a big piece to this team having success this year. And 3 minutes a game is not going to do it. So hopefully over the next few weeks before Big East play starts, he starts picking this back up. But, I mean, you've got, 14 days? 10 days?
It's coming fast. Like it's 10 days until the Wisconsin game, 14 days until Seton Hall. It's coming fast.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got to get back. I don't know what that looks like, but he'll be a huge part if they are going to have any success, especially in the Big East play.
One other thing on the negatives front, and I promise we're going to find some positives to talk about. We searched long and hard for them on a night that was not fun, as Villanova losing by 28 in a game that, as we mentioned earlier, was not as close as this. Again, remember, this is right now a team that is playing the best of the country. I've said many times the 2018 Villanova team is the best team I've seen play college basketball in the last 20 years. And the way they have overachieved in the NBA has kind of backed that up. Michigan looks better than that 2018 Villanova team, the way they're playing right now. I don't remember that Villanova team 40-piecing people left and right. Do you?
No. I don't
remember any team 40-piecing left and right the way Michigan is right now.
And if Michigan gets 18 points from Elliot Cadeau shooting 4 for 8 from 3, I don't know who beats them.
What a punch in the face that was. You come in, you're all hyped. You finally get a top-tier opponent. You're hoping maybe they could pull off the shocker. Worst-case scenario, you're thinking, boy, can they just hang in there for a while and kind of get a little litmus test of where they are? And Godot, who's not known as a shooter, comes out first possession of the game and pops a 3 off the bounce. Boom. And you're just like, well, that is the opposite of what they can afford to happen if they're going to be competitive. You knew it was going to be a long night, and Godot kind of provided that right from the start. It was a great broadcast from Fox. I got nothing but nice things to say. I got one thing, though, about Fox as we kind of cleaned out our negatives here. Look, man, I was lamenting the NBA on NBC returning because I had grown to like Round Ball Rock, the theme song that Fox had pilfered to use for their college basketball coverage. It takes us back to our childhood. And, you know, it was cool to be associated with the Big East in college basketball, which is my preferred basketball. But now the NBA on NBC is back. We lived through all that nostalgia to start the season. Guys, it's kind of pathetic to be still playing that song. It doesn't mean college basketball anymore. What are we doing? Why is that song? I mean, are you with me on that? Why is that song still in? Like, it went from all the good vibes that I was feeling when the NBA on NBC didn't exist to now just being like, what in the world do they think that I thought music was supposed to be branding. You're branding a different network playing that. You're branding a different brand of basketball by playing that. Very strange.
Agreed. It's got to go. It's for the NBA. Let them have it back.
All right, to the positives. We'll start with, let's just stick with the broadcast because there wasn't a lot of positives on the floor. We will get to some positives with Villanova. Raft is a national treasure.
I love him.
It's so sad that the man is what, he's 83 years old, I think he is.
Yeah.
I know he's slowing down a little bit, but you cannot help but be entertained by Bill Raftery, and he's just so likable. I mean, he went full Billy Packer on us tonight. 7:15 left first half. Remember when Billy Packer in that Final Four game declared it over? What, 7 minutes into the game? Over.
Yeah.
This thing is over. And the world hated him for it. And by the way, there was a near comeback. It was almost a disaster for Billy Packer.
He almost ate his words right back in the second half.
But, like, it was one of those things where I totally understood what he was saying, just way too early to call it. In the game tonight with 7:15 to go first half, Raftery was trying to make a point about Villanova had a good trip offensively, and he said, all right, this is what Nova had to do to get back into the game. It's exactly, and then he had to stop mid-sentence because he watched Nova get beat off the dribble, allow a lob, and he just pivoted to forget it. Too much. Toying with them. The rest is history. It's 7 1/4. He called the game over with 7:15 left in the first half, and it was with the team that I root for. And yet, A, obviously I agreed with him, but B, it was done in such a likable fashion that there was no ill will that you could feel whatsoever. He's just an incredibly likable human being.
Well, I mean, when he said it, because like you said, he's talking. Nova makes a good play. It's like, okay, you got to keep making these plays to get back in the game. And then Michigan just goes right to the defense lob. And if I were Raftery, I would have thought the same thing. Goodness, I'm trying to say something positive, and you just give up a lob dunk right down the middle.
It was just so funny because he white flagged it mid-sentence. He was trying to do his job to keep people engaged in the broadcast, and he was just like, no, too much toying with him. This one is done. Also, I mean, just his ability to find levity and to tell stories. I mean, how many good one-liners did he have tonight? I think and Benetti is very good too, by the way, and they're a really nice combination. I really like them working together. But I mean, Raft just takes it above and beyond. I mean, when he said maybe I should have learned to work alone, I perhaps would have better success that way. He had all the George Raveling stories on cue, but I think my favorite line of him of the night was, "We don't have a kitchen," which slayed Jason Benetti. And to Benetti's credit, he asked the follow-up question, and Raftery said, "Untouched by human hands. Everything's so spotless. My wife gave up decades ago." It's just like, it's the middle of the game, and he rolls with it so quickly. Like, he when he came back from break and he said, "I hope you're not putting too much thought into my Christmas gift. It's the thought that counts." Like it was a Yogi Berra-ism and a great line all at once. Just a very, very fun guy. If your team is going to get its socks knocked off by a clearly superior opponent, Raft is the guy you want calling the game. He was the silver lining on a night where there weren't many silver linings.
At least the broadcast will be.
All right, how about basketball-wise? Devin Askew obviously was the silver lining. Now, did I think he got a little too shot happy there after that initial burst? Certainly, and it was done almost entirely off the bounce, which, as we already talked about, is not sustainable. But knocking down 3 threes in the first 5 minutes of the game, making a 4-point play, trying to single-handedly keep Villanova within the same zip code of Michigan, and showing no hesitation, no tentativeness whatsoever. I just thought that was a really good sign for a guy who has shown it at times throughout really his career, but especially this year since the injury. Maybe that's something that can really buoy his confidence and he can build upon.
Yeah, no, I thought he played well. Same criticisms but to an extent, he had to take those shots off the dribble because it seemed like nobody else was. It didn't seem like the offense was running, like anybody was cutting and passing. So to some extent, he was forced to take those shots. But I was happy to see him willing to get into the fight. I'd also say Chris Jeffrey. I thought he played well in the minutes that he was provided. He went 5 for 7. I'd love to see Chris Jeffrey get a few more minutes.
Would you read my sheet here? The 5 positives that I had. More Chris Jeffrey, please, was written down. He seems to play his best against the best, David. I mean, his 2 best games so far this year have been Michigan and the opener against BYU.
Yeah. So
that's a good sign. That's a really good sign.
Exactly. I am all for let's bump up Chris Jeffrey's minutes a little bit.
The irony of the entire situation is probably the toughest position to get more minutes, though, for Villanova.
I know.
Don't want to take a Caden Lewis off the floor because you need him to continue to develop. He's the future. You don't have a future beyond this year with Devin Askew, but right now, he probably gives you your best option as a true scorer. It's him or Bryce Lindsey. And so, there's only 5 guys that can be out there on the floor. There's only, 1 point guard, so to speak. Villanova's already trying to play 2 at a time. I think that's where they've maybe struggled to find the opening for Chris Jeffrey. But, I mean, to me, I couldn't agree more. They got to figure something out, whether it's move. You can't. And the other problem right now is it's hard to move Lewis off the ball because Caden's struggling with his shot. I mean, we knew that coming in. We knew that was going to be something. We were hoping that he would be able to kind of get it solved. Again, it's not an ugly-looking shot, but it doesn't go in. I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. So hard to move him off ball right now if he's not going to be able to provide any type of perimeter threat.
No, I agree. I mean, you're looking basically at the 3 position. Maybe you can find some minutes there.
Big,
but
he is a little. He's sneaky, can bulldoze his way into the lane. I don't know how he defends at that 3 position, though, would be the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem, but I think it's worth a try. Let's see what it looks like.
Hey, anything was
worth can't get worse than
tonight, that's for sure. Caden Lewis, again, we talked about there's growth there that's going to happen. They need him to be able to score it a little bit more. He does end up in double figures tonight. I thought what was a good sign for Caden Lewis, didn't have a ton of turnovers. The defense, he just gets stuck in kind of a weird guarding position sometimes. Is it just me, or does he get stuck standing straight up guarding on the
Yeah.
perimeter? And like you get away with that every once in a while in high school, but you can in college. Like you're gonna get blown by almost every single time. And you could see the one time he did it right in front of Kevin Willard. And it
Yeah.
resulted in a disgusted timeout and Caden Lewis not being back in the game. So he will learn from that. And Caden Lewis is a really coachable kid. And again, you got to remind everybody he is a freshman. I know he doesn't look like a freshman a lot of times out there, but he is. He's a rookie, and he's going to have growing pains. But this team, they can't afford too many growing pains. They need him to start to figure it out soon. And I thought his play in the second half, albeit meaningless in terms of trying to win the game, as Raftery alluded to, that game switched from competitive at that 7:15 mark of the first half to find something, learn, try to get comfortable, something you can rely on down the line. I don't know if they ever end up finding something that you're like, okay, that is something we can go to and we need it. But I do feel like they got some guys maybe a little bit more confidence that it didn't feel like it was a disaster the final 25 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Askew showed up in the second half. I think it's going to be a sign of maturity if he can start playing 40 minutes like that. Like you said, the BYU game was a similar type thing where it started off slow. I mean, Askew played a lot of minutes in that BYU game. Didn't play particularly well. He played much better tonight, but Lewis wasn't on the floor because it seemed like it was too fast for him. So picking that up where he comes out ready to play from jump will be important for him. But I do like how he came back in the second half. Like you said, you got to get rid of some of the growing pains because right now it seems like everything that concerned us at the beginning of the season is happening, and we haven't seen any of that turning the corner. Like at some point, you got to turn the corner. So hopefully that is on the horizon. I think Caden Lewis every game gets a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I'd probably like to see him take a few bigger leaps from game to game, but I think that by January 1st, maybe he's playing 30 good minutes of basketball instead of 20.
Against this level of competition. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Because again, Caden Lewis has bad teams. I mean, he's a really good player against bad teams. And I don't mean that to say he can only play against bad teams. It's just we know that he can compete in college basketball because we've seen him go against mid-major teams, good mid-major teams and bad mid-major teams, and just bully them and work your way to the lane.
Yeah.
I think he'll be able to do that later in his career as he continues to physically mature and get stronger and stronger against better teams. Right now, he's not going to be able to just physically will his way to the basket against these type of opponents. So he's going to have to find that second and third options. What he had been doing so far this year was really distributing the ball.
Yeah.
That was not in the cards today because of Michigan's size defensively, and Villanova was just wildly shot happy throughout the night. But they've got to find a way for him to be able, maybe it's a pull-up, maybe it's that mid-range 15-footer off the bounce, maybe it's downhill drives and looking to distribute, whatever it is, they've got to get him much more involved in the offense against this type of competition. If it's not against the UConns of the world, fine, but against the Creightons, that next tier, against the Seton Halls, the Creightons, the Butlers of the world, they better be ready to go with a Caden Lewis and have him contributing. I think he will. I think he'll be all right. And I think the second half was a good sign towards that. But again, it is, we have to be, tell the truth here. Otherwise, what's the point of doing this? And so far against the two best teams, he has struggled in both of those games. So it is worth noting, but there were good signs in the second half. I also thought, David, the hustle. I know, you can kind of roll your eyes at that when you're down by 35 and you're making hustle plays, but there's two ways to look at it. And as a guy that was on coaching staffs for a long time, I know coaches care about that a lot because you either shut it down or you kind of just keep working. And I thought Villanova kept working tonight. It's a hollow silver lining, but it is something that we're talking about trying to restore the culture of the Villanova
Mhm.
program, that's a sign of that.
No, and I think that I agree. They were getting to some 50-50 balls because the thing is, Michigan's going to get up so big. At some point, they stop playing as hard as they were
You would think,
before.
oh boy, they didn't for a long
They
time.
didn't.
It was crazy.
They didn't for a long time, and when you get into this lull where even when they're not playing as hard as they can, you're not playing as hard as you can, and they're still beating you to 50-50 balls. No, that didn't happen. So it's good to see that there was still fight. Obviously, you wish that fight had led to a few more points on the scoreboard, but there was still fight. You can't knock them for, being there and doing, like, getting on the floor, trying to do something. It just wasn't in the cards tonight against this good Michigan team.
No, it was not, unfortunately. So, all right, we've talked about what went wrong. We've talked about what Villanova can learn from it. Let's talk about what it means, right? So, this was an opportunity. It was not an opportunity you were counting on. I don't think anybody that watched this Michigan team play at any point this year thought that this was a game. Boy, I think Villanova can beat this team. We talked about that. There was like a two-pronged path to pull it off an upset. And by the way, I think there might only be, you know, again, it's a long season. Michigan, we'll see if they can stay this locked in every single night. But right now, when they are locked in with that size and that athleticism, I think there might be like 5, 6 teams that can beat them at all. Like, they just
Yeah.
look so much better than everybody else. Even when having an off night, the game might be more competitive, but I don't think you're beating that team. Like, this has, they won their clunker against Wake Forest in overtime. That was the game they should have lost. They've gotten
Mhm.
light years better since then. This has, the Big Ten's good and deep, but man, if there ever is a team that might be able to sneak to an undefeated year, is it not? Like, this has the feel of the
Yeah.
construction of that type of team that could fool around and maybe find their way towards something special.
Mhm. I think it would be interesting, not to talk too much about Michigan, but those two Michigan State games will be interesting this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Big Ten's so good; they're not going to
Yeah.
go undefeated. But I'm just saying, like, the construction of this team.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you sit
If
there and look and like, I don't know who would I pick to beat this Michigan team? I wouldn't feel good about anybody.
if I took Michigan at their best and any other team at their best, yeah, there aren't many teams that I think are even on the same level at Michigan at their best.
That's the thing. I don't know what UConn at its best looks like yet because of all the injuries. We haven't seen it yet.
Mhm.
Uh, Purdue just lost by 27. I know that they've had some issues too early in the year, but they just lost by 20. I don't think anybody's beating this Michigan team by 27. I'm
No.
pretty sure that's not going to happen over the course of the year, unless they get like mono or something and half the team is out. Like, I just don't foresee that coming. But my point being that this was not a game you were pointing to as a potential upset. This is not, though, a game. I guess you did get it back to 28, so it wasn't as ugly as maybe it could have been, but it's not going to be good for the net rankings. They're going to
No.
recede in those net rankings. At least came
Mhm.
on the road. It will help your strength of schedule, which had nowhere to go but up after what we saw from the computer numbers lounging there in the mid 200s in terms of strength of schedule to this point. So that'll help. But, everything else, it's not going to help at all. You got
No.
Pitt at home. That's not going to help the strength of schedule either. It's not going to be a great quad opportunity with the way Pitt has played so far this year. That's a game you wish was at the Pete, quite frankly, because that
Yeah.
would probably be at minimum quad 2. It might even sneak by the end of the year to a quad 1, but instead it's probably going to be quad 2, quad 3. Got to get that game. That's a must win.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you, David. Is the Wisconsin game, is there a realistic path other than winning? I don't know if beating UConn once. If they don't beat Wisconsin, how many good wins are out there for Villanova to get?
If they don't beat Wisconsin and want to play in the tournament, I think they have to take at least 2 of the 4 against UConn and St. John's, probably 3.
I was going
If
to say
it's
2, and St. John's better start playing better if
Yeah,
one of them is
St.
against
John's
St.
better
John.
start playing better.
Yes.
If it's only 2, assuming St. John starts playing better, Big East tournament, you're going to have to get probably to the semifinals with a victory over.
Well, they're going to have to win 14 Big East games, which I know
Yeah,
the Big East is down. That's not going to be easy to do.
no,
It's still a very competitive, balanced conference. So, I mean, that Wisconsin game, it feels critical. You
yeah,
have
yeah,
wins, and it seems such a weird thing to say because they're going to go into that Wisconsin game at 9-2. And even if
mhm,
you lose it, you're 9-3. If you lose it competitively, you're 9-3 with a close loss to top 10 BYU and a close loss at top 25 Wisconsin. So
yeah.
on the surface, it doesn't feel that bad. Your best win is Duquesne, Queens College, if they turn it
Queens.
around.
Uh,
I don't know, man. I guess technically it would be, it's not Temple right now. Temple keeps
yeah,
receding. I mean, I guess it would be Duquesne. Like I'm projecting forward. Obviously, you can see what it is right now in the net, but
yeah.
people are going to string together wins as they get into conference play. But I don't know. So, and the committee's going to look at that. So you're
And wins
clearly
against tournament teams.
right.
What
And quad one wins, quad two wins.
mhm.
They just lack those. So the Wisconsin game suddenly feels so much more important, or you're going to have to take at least 2 out of 4 against St. John's and UConn. And if it's just 2, you might have to win 14 Big East games. It's really hard to win 14 Big East games. I mean, like, it's easy to put W on lists. And
Yeah.
yeah, they've beaten all the teams they're better than this year, but they're still really young and a lot of moving parts. They're gonna stub their toe. I don't think they're good enough to win 14. Like, I'm almost positive they're not good enough to win 14 Big East games.
And I would say you don't beat Wisconsin if you don't win that. To feel comfortable, you got to win 3 of 4 against St. John's and UConn.
Just wild. I mean,
Yeah.
it is that is, and Kevin Willard said it. I mean, he was not happy with the situation with the event that they had already been tied to, that he could not get out of, those 3 games against Queens, Duquesne, and Sacred Heart. Like,
Mhm.
that wasn't what he wanted coming into the year, but he didn't have any choice. They had already signed on the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly.
You're locked into the Big 5 games, love the Big 5, but, like, you get nothing out of that. Like, they were
Mhm.
harder games than they look on paper. No one cares. Like, the committee says, "Cool, man, like, that's great." Heck, we
Yeah.
learned from the football committee, they just make it up as they go anyway, so we don't know what actually matters anyway, but it's just one of those things where, yeah, you're starting to get this Wisconsin game, it seems preposterous because it's gonna be December 19th, but it's pivotal. They have got to find a way to win that game if they are,
Mhm.
or they're gonna have to do something almost miraculous in the Big East, and that's not the spot you wanna be in just to try to get to the tournament. Again, this is not an end all be all. You want to get to the tournament this year. It's not
Yeah.
a you need to get to the tournament this year. But what you want to be and really need to be is competing to get to the tournament
Mhm.
this year. You lose that Wisconsin game, it's going to be hard to do that because you want these young players playing high pressure, important games down the stretch.
Exactly. So I agree with you. It's not obviously year one. You don't make the tournament. Okay, that sucks. It's probably an expectation this year, but yeah, you want to be in that bubble talk when the calendar turns to March. You want to be there at least with your name being mentioned.
And I mean, I would assume they will be because their record is good enough that, like, the volume of wins will at least keep them on those bubble watch columns that we all love to read. And
Mhm.
Joe Lenardi will mention them in bracketology. But are they realistically going to have a chance to make it? That's where the math starts to creep in, where you're just it's a tough path to get there, man. And especially since right now, the biggest problem for I think that they have pieces to beat bad teams. I'm
Mhm.
still waiting to find out if they have pieces to beat above average teams, and that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna kinda get a piece of information on against Wisconsin. But I think they do. Do you? I feel like they do.
I think they do. I think they obviously can beat the bad teams. I think they can beat teams that are on the same level as them. And tonight was just so hard. But I do think the pieces are there to beat teams that are quote unquote better than you.
But I don't necessarily think, barring one of those nights that we've seen them have twice so far this year, where they're just raining in threes from multiple bodies, they don't have the pieces to beat elite teams because they're not big enough and they're not athletic enough. So it takes away so much of the margin for error. And yeah, like that's where now this non-conference schedule where there's no middle ground where you played, sub 200 teams or you played the best team in the country is putting you in a tough spot.
2 top 10 teams.
Yeah, it's putting you in a tough spot at the moment. So that it's just something to keep an eye on. And then the last thing before we get out of here that I've got to mention about this Villanova team that is truly strange, and I kind of just touched on it a minute ago, they got to figure out a way to get more than one guy to make threes in a game. I mean, twice this year they've been able to do it. Outside of that, it's one guy, and then everybody else just keeps chucking them, and they don't go in. Tonight, it was Askew, 5 of 13. Rest of the team, 5 of 24. Like, that's not sustainable with their lack of scoring prowess inside.
Yeah, no, it's a little surprised Bryce Lindsey did not play well tonight. But you got to find a way to be more consistent three-point shooters. Everybody, across the board. Obviously, you want at least 2, probably 3 guys that can hit a couple consistently. But, yeah, I mean, it's just been barren. And it's not like, I mean, for the short period where it was competitive, Michigan shot it well. But they didn't shoot it great from 3. They ended at 27%.
No, the last 25 minutes was they didn't make anything from the outside, and that's why the final score ended up being 28. Otherwise, if they had made threes, it would have been 40-45 again. Like that was exactly. He scored 89 points, shooting 27% from three-point range.
Yeah.
They're good, man. They are like I don't want to absolve Villanova. They did not play well. They have to play better. The two things can be true, right? Michigan's really insanely good. Villanova didn't play well, and they've got things that they've got a lot of things they've got to solve moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that simple. I guess. We just spent 57 minutes talking about it, but really it just those two things are wildly true. And you hate to say
basketball, stupid.
You hate to say it because that 2018 team, it's really cool that they're probably the best team, at least very much in the discussion for the best team in the last 2 decades. Michigan keeps playing like this, that discussion is going to change because I think Michigan will certainly take over that role. It was one of those nights, man. I had to bring out my Billy Joel Madison Square Garden cup to make myself feel better. It was tough night at the proverbial office. But we appreciate you being with us. We appreciate you living through the misery as we try to figure out what ails the Cats. We'll be back next week, 2 more shows, and we'll rejoin Lauren Carra as well, talking about that game against Pittsburgh, talking about the women's team really starting to play well as they are putting together a nice little tourney resume. Also, lots to cover on Holy Nova as the schedule finally starts to pick up, and the games, I promise, they won't all be like this. For Lauren Carra, who wasn't with us, and David White, I'm Matt Janus. Thanks so much. Please like the video, subscribe to the Big East Energy Network. This has been Holy Nova.